Hello everybody, welcome to my channel.
Barry Gibb Biography. Barry Alan Crompton Gibb, born September 1, 1946, in Douglas, Isle of Man, is a British singer, songwriter, record producer, and musician best known as the co-founder and leader of the legendary pop group the Bee Gees. Alongside his younger brothers Robin and Maurice Gibb, Barry helped create one of the most successful and influential bands in the history of popular music. Early life and family. Barry was born to Hugh Gibb, a bandleader and drummer, and Barbara Gibb, a singer. The Gibb family moved frequently in Barry's early years, from the Isle of Man to Manchester, England, and later to Redcliffe, Queensland, Australia, in 1958. It was in Australia that Barry and his brothers began performing together, forming a skiffle and rock and roll band called the Rattlesnakes, which eventually evolved into the Bee Gees. Barry showed an early gift for songwriting and harmony arrangement, talents that would become the foundation of his extraordinary career. Rise of the Bee Gees. The Bee Gees returned to England in 1967 and quickly gained international fame with hits like New York Mining Disaster 1941, To Love Somebody, and Massachusetts. Barry, known for his distinctive falsetto voice and emotional delivery, became the group's central creative force, writing or co-writing nearly all of their songs. Throughout the late 1960s and early 1970s, the Bee Gees developed a unique blend of pop, soul, and rock, marked by lush harmonies and lyrical depth. However, it was in the mid-1970s that Barry and his brothers achieved global superstardom. Disco era and global success. The Bee Gees reached the pinnacle of their career with the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, 1977, a cultural phenomenon that defined the disco era. Barry's songwriting and production shaped iconic hits such as Stayin' Alive, Night Fever, How Deep Is Your Love, More Than a Woman. The soundtrack won multiple Grammy Awards, including Album of the Year, and became one of the best-selling albums in history. Barry's falsetto became one of the most recognizable voices in pop music, influencing countless artists across genres. Songwriting and producing for others beyond the Bee Gees, Barry achieved enormous success as a songwriter and producer for other artists. He wrote and produced hits for Barbra Streisand, Guilty, Woman in Love, Diana Ross, Chain Reaction, Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton, Islands in the Stream, Celine Dion, Cliff Richard, and Dionne Warwick, among others. His ability to blend emotion, melody, and rhythm made him one of the most prolific and successful songwriters of the 20th century. Later years and legacy. Following the deaths of his brothers Maurice, 2003, and Robin, 2012, Barry continued to perform and record as a solo artist. In 2016, he released his second solo album, In the Now, showcasing his enduring voice and songwriting craft. In recognition of his contributions to music, Barry Gibb was knighted in 2018 by Prince Charles, now King Charles III. Becoming Sir Barry Gibb. Personal life. Barry married Linda Gray, a former Miss Edinburgh, in 1970, and they have 5 children. The couple has remained together for more than 5 decades, a rarity in the entertainment world. Barry lives primarily in Miami, Florida, where the Bee Gees recorded much of their later work. Musical influence and legacy. Barry Gibb is one of the most successful songwriters in history, having written or co-written more than 1,000 songs, with over 300 million records sold worldwide. His mastery of melody and emotion has left an indelible mark on pop, soul, and disco music. The Bee Gees sound, powered by Barry's distinctive falsetto and songwriting genius, continues to inspire generations of musicians, from pop and R&B artists to producers and DJs. Barry Gibb remains the last surviving member of the Bee Gees, carrying the legacy of a group that forever changed the landscape of popular music. His voice, creativity, and emotional songwriting continue to resonate across decades, proving that true musical brilliance never fades. Although best known for his work with the Bee Gees, Barry Gibb's solo career has also been significant, showcasing his versatility as a singer, songwriter, and producer beyond the band's legacy. Barry's first attempt at a solo career came in 1970, during a brief period when the Bee Gees had temporarily disbanded. He recorded an album titled The Kid's No Good, but it was never officially released. A few singles, including I'll Kiss Your Memory, surfaced, demonstrating his melodic sensitivity and vocal warmth. But the project was shelved once the Bee Gees reunited later that year. In 1984, Barry released his first official solo album, Now Voyager, which featured the singles Shine, and Fine Line. The album reflected the slick production and romantic sensibilities that had come to define his style. Accompanied by a visually creative long-form music video that played on MTV. More than 3 decades later, Barry made a strong comeback with his 2016 album In the Now. Co-written with his sons Stephen and Ashley Gibb, the album received critical acclaim for its sincerity and craftsmanship, balancing contemporary pop-rock sounds with his signature emotional delivery. Songs like Star-Crossed Lovers and Home Truth Song revealed a reflective side of Barry, now looking back on his life, family, and legacy. Awards and honors. Barry Gibb's contributions to music have been recognized with numerous awards and honors spanning more than 5 decades. Grammy Awards, 1979. Album of the Year for Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. Best Pop Vocal Performance by a Duo or Group for Stayin' Alive. Producer of the Year, Non-Classical, with the Bee Gees in total. Barry and the Bee Gees have won 9 Grammy Awards. Brit Awards, 1997. Outstanding Contribution to Music. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Inducted with the Bee Gees in 1997 Songwriters Hall of Fame. Inducted in 1994, recognizing his lifelong dedication to songwriting. Kennedy Center Honors, received in 2023, celebrating his influence on American music and culture. Knighthood, in 2018. Barry Gibb was knighted by Prince Charles for his services to music and charity, becoming Sir Barry Gibb CBE. Musical style and influence. Barry Gibb's style has evolved over the years, but certain elements have remained constant: soaring vocal harmonies, heartfelt lyrics, and a deep understanding of rhythm and melody. His early songwriting reflected the influence of the Beatles, Roy Orbison, and soul music, while the Bee Gees' disco-era hits introduced a falsetto-driven, rhythmic sound that shaped the dance music of the late 1970s. His falsetto, first showcased prominently on songs like Nights on Broadway and You Should Be Dancing, became a defining characteristic not only of the Bee Gees' sound but of the entire disco movement. Barry's work as a producer also helped modernize the pop sound of artists like Barbara Streisand, Dolly Parton, and Diana Ross, bringing a smooth, polished energy to their music. He remains one of the few artists who successfully bridged multiple musical eras, from 1960s pop ballads to 1970s disco, 1980s soft rock, and beyond. Personal life and philanthropy. Barry Gibb has often spoken of his deep love for family. He and his wife Linda Gray have been married since 1970, a remarkably enduring partnership in show business. They have 5 children: Stephen, Ashley, Travis, Michael, and Alexandra, and several grandchildren. A devoted husband and father, Barry credits Linda with being his anchor through fame, loss, and personal struggles. After the deaths of his brothers Maurice and Robin, Barry has often spoken publicly about grief, brotherhood, and the bond that music gave them. In addition to his music career, Barry has supported numerous charitable causes, including children's hospitals, disaster relief funds, and music education programs. Recent activities and legacy. In recent years, Barry Gibb has continued to perform and celebrate the Bee Gees' musical heritage. In 2021, he released the album Greenfields. The Gibb Brothers Songbook, Volume 1, a collection of Bee Gees classics reimagined as country duets with artists like Dolly Parton, Keith Urban, Olivia Newton-John, and Brandi Carlile. The album debuted at number 1 on the UK charts, a testament to the timeless appeal of his music. Barry also appeared in the acclaimed documentary, The Bee Gees, How Can You Mend a Broken Heart, 2020, which provided an intimate look at the brothers' lives and musical journey. His candid reflections on love, loss, and creativity made the film deeply emotional and inspiring to fans. Today, Sir Barry Gibb stands as one of the most successful songwriters in history, the only songwriter besides Paul McCartney and John Lennon to have written or co-written 16 Billboard Hot 100 #1 hits. His influence spans decades in genres, from pop to R&B to country, leaving a legacy that few in music history can match. Further career and achievements of Barry Gibb. After decades of chart-topping success with the Bee Gees, Barry Gibb continued to evolve as a solo artist, producer, and living legend of modern music. His ability to reinvent himself while staying true to his roots has cemented his reputation as one of the most enduring figures in pop history. Solo career and continued creativity. Barry's first solo effort, Now Voyager, 1984, marked a new chapter in his career. The album blended smooth pop and soft rock elements, featuring the singles Shine, Shine, and Fine Line, while not matching the massive commercial impact of the Bee Gees. The record demonstrated his versatility and vocal strength beyond the group dynamic. He took a long hiatus from solo projects after his brothers passed away, but returned with renewed passion decades later. His 2016 album, In the Now, was an emotional and personal statement, co-written with his sons Stephen and Ashley Gibb. The album reflected a mature artist looking back on life, love, and loss, filled with introspection and gratitude. In 2021, Barry released Greenfields, the Gibb Brothers Songbook, Volume 1. A collaboration with country and Americana artists like Dolly Parton, Keith Urban, Olivia Newton-John, Brandi Carlile, and Jason Isbell. The album reimagined Bee Gees classics in a fresh, roots-inspired style and became a critical and commercial success, topping the UK charts. Awards and honors. Barry Gibb's accolades are monumental. Together with his brothers, he has received 8 Grammy Awards, including Lifetime Achievement Award, 2015. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction, 1997. Songwriters Hall of Fame induction, 1994. Commander of the Order of the British Empire, CBE, in 2002. Knighthood, 2018, for services to music and charity. He also holds the rare distinction of being one of the few artists to have written, produced, and performed on multiple Billboard Hot 100 #1 songs. Musical style and influence. Barry Gibb's signature falsetto voice became one of the defining sounds of the 1970s. But beyond his vocals, it's his songwriting craftsmanship that truly sets him apart. His songs blend emotional storytelling with infectious melody, from the soulfulness of How Deep Is Your Love to the urgency of Tragedy. His influence reaches far beyond disco. Artists such as Justin Timberlake, Adele, Coldplay, and The Weeknd have cited the Bee Gees as inspirations for their own musical explorations. Barry's seamless ability to merge pop, soul, R&B, and dance music continues to echo through contemporary soundscapes. Personal strength and legacy behind his legendary status lies a deeply personal story of resilience. The deaths of his brothers Maurice and Robin profoundly affected Barry. Yet, rather than retreating from the spotlight, he chose to honor their legacy through music, often performing Bee Gees classics in tribute to them. Barry remains devoted to his family and to causes close to his heart, including charitable work for children's hospitals and cancer research. His humility and sincerity have earned him admiration both inside and outside the music world. Legacy in music history. Barry Gibb's songwriting catalog stands among the most valuable and influential in history, alongside names like Lennon, McCartney, and Carole King. With more than 1,000 recorded compositions and over 200 million albums sold worldwide, his work has shaped the soundtrack of multiple generations. From early rock and roll roots to the height of disco, and now into the timeless realm of classic pop, Barry Gibb's music continues to live on, proof that his creative flame has never dimmed. Most famous songs and collaborations throughout his extraordinary career, Barry Gibb has written, co-written, or produced hundreds of songs that became international hits. His songwriting mastery, emotional depth, and innovative sound have made him one of the most prolific artists of all time. Below is an overview of his most celebrated works, from his time with the Bee Gees to his collaborations with other music legends. Of iconic songs with the Bee Gees. Barry Gibb's songwriting partnership with his brothers Robin and Maurice produced a catalog that shaped the sound of multiple decades. 1960s, the early years. New York mining disaster 1941, 1967, To Love Somebody, 1967, Massachusetts, 1967, Words, 1968, I've Gotta Get a Message to You, 1968, I Started a Joke, 1968, these early songs showcased the Bee Gees' gift for storytelling, haunting melodies and emotional vocals, establishing them as one of the most talented new groups of the era. 1970s, the Golden Age and Disco Revolution. Jive Talkin', 1975, Nights on Broadway, 1975, You Should Be Dancing, 1976, How Deep Is Your Love, 1977, Stayin' Alive, 1977, Night Fever, 1977, More Than a Woman, 1977, Tragedy, 1979, Too Much Heaven, 1978, Love You Inside Out, 1979. These hits defined the disco era and made the Bee Gees the face of 1970s pop culture. Barry's distinctive falsetto, layered harmonies, and sharp production transformed dance music and influenced the next generation of pop and R&B artists. 1980s, reinvention and continued success. You Win Again, 1987, Secret Love, 1991, Ordinary Lives, 1989, 1989. Even after the disco era waned, Barry and his brothers reinvented their sound, creating more mature, introspective pop music that maintained their global popularity. Mic collaborations and songs written for other artists. Barry Gibb's genius extended far beyond the Bee Gees. He wrote and produced major hits for other stars, many of which became career-defining songs for those artists. For Barbara Streisand, Woman in Love, 1980, Guilty, 1980, What Kind of Fool, 1980. These songs formed the core of Streisand's Guilty album, which Barry co-produced and co-wrote, earning him critical acclaim and commercial success. For Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton, Islands in the Stream, 1983, one of the most beloved duets in country and pop history, topping charts worldwide. For Diana Ross, Chain Reaction, 1986, a Motown-inspired pop gem that became one of her biggest 1980s hits. For Dionne Warwick, Heartbreaker, 1982, a bittersweet ballad that became one of her signature songs. Other collaborations: Grease, 1978, written for Frankie Valli, theme song for the film Grease. Another chart-topping success, Emotion, 1977, written for Samantha Sang, later covered by Destiny's Child. Hold Her in Your Hand, 1984, featured in Now Voyager, his solo project. Barry's songwriting versatility allowed him to move seamlessly between pop, R&B, disco, and country, crafting timeless melodies that transcended genres. Artistry and voice: Barry's falsetto became one of the most recognizable sounds in modern music, both soulful and ethereal. Interestingly, he did not always sing in falsetto. Early Bee Gees records featured his natural tenor. It wasn't until the mid-1970s that he began experimenting with higher ranges, particularly on nights on Broadway, leading to the signature sound that defined the Bee Gees' later success. As a producer, Barry Gibb was meticulous and forward-thinking. He was one of the first pop artists to use layered vocal harmonies and rhythm-driven bass lines to build emotional intensity in songs, techniques that would later become staples in pop and R&B. Production. Influence on other artists: Barry Gibb's influence has touched generations of musicians, including Justin Timberlake, who has cited the Bee Gees' harmonies as an inspiration for his falsetto work. Daft Punk, Bruno Mars, and The Weeknd, who drew on the disco and dance funk sound Barry helped pioneer. Coldplay, whose song Stayin' Alive inspired Chris Martin's appreciation for layered vocals and melody-driven writing. His ability to write universally relatable songs about love, heartbreak, and hope made his music timeless. Personal reflections and legacy: Barry has spoken often about how the deaths of his brothers deeply affected him. He described himself as feeling both proud and lonely, the last man standing, from the Bee Gees. In interviews, he has shared that performing their songs brings back both joy and sorrow. But he continues to honor them through music. Despite fame, Barry remains humble and family-oriented. He once said, "You can lose fame and fortune, but you can't lose the music. That's forever." The legacy of Sir Barry Gibb: over 220 million albums sold with the Bee Gees. Over 1,000 songs written, with 16 reaching number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. One of the most successful songwriters in history, alongside Paul McCartney, John Lennon, and Max Martin. Knighted in 2018 for his services to music and charity. Barry Gibb's impact on popular music is immeasurable, from heartfelt ballads and soulful pop to infectious dance anthems. His career, spanning more than 6 decades, is a testament to artistic evolution, resilience, and timeless creativity. Even today, Sir Barry continues to perform, record, and inspire, a living legend whose music has defined generations and whose songs will echo for many more to come. Barry Gibb, life and career timeline. To truly appreciate Sir Barry Gibb's remarkable journey, it helps to look at the key moments, from his modest beginnings to global superstardom, immense loss, and lasting legacy as one of the greatest songwriters of all time. 1940s to 1950s, early life and musical beginnings. 1946, Barry Alan Crompton Gibb is born on September 1, 1946, in Douglas, Isle of Man, to Hugh and Barbara Gibb. 1949, the family moves to Chorlton-cum-Hardy, Manchester, England, where Barry develops a love for music and begins performing with his brothers Robin and Maurice. 1958. The Gibb family emigrates to Redcliffe, Queensland, Australia, in search of better opportunities. Barry, now a teenager, forms a band with his brothers called the Rattlesnakes, which later becomes Wee Johnny Hayes and the Blue Cats, and eventually the Bee Gees, short for Brothers Gibb. 1960s, the birth of the Bee Gees. 1963. The Bee Gees begin performing regularly on Australian television and radio. 1965, their first single, The Battle of the Blue and the Grey, is released in Australia. 1966. The Bee Gees release their first album. The Bee Gees sing and play 14 Barry Gibb songs, showcasing Barry's early songwriting talent. 1967, the family returns to England, and the Bee Gees are signed by Robert Stigwood. Their international debut album, Bee Gees First, is released, featuring hits like New York Mining Disaster 1941, To Love Somebody, and Holiday. 1968-1969, the Bee Gees score multiple international hits, including Massachusetts, I've Gotta Get a Message to You, and I Started a Joke. Barry becomes recognized as the group's creative leader. 1970s, breakup, reunion, and reinvention. 1970, the Bee Gees briefly split up due to internal tensions. Barry records a solo album, The Kid's No Good, but it remains unreleased. Later that year, the brothers reunite. 1971 to 1974, the Bee Gees experience moderate success with ballads such as Lonely Days and How Can You Mend a Broken Heart. 1975, under producer Arif Mardin, the Bee Gees reinvent their sound with the funk-inspired Jive Talkin' and Nights on Broadway. Barry experiments with a new falsetto vocal style that becomes the group's trademark. 1977, the Bee Gees achieve global superstardom with the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack, featuring Stayin' Alive, How Deep Is Your Love, and Night Fever. The album sells over 40 million copies and defines the disco era. 1978-1979, Barry writes hits for other artists, Grease, Emotion, If I Can't Have You, and continues Bee Gees' success with Too Much Heaven, Tragedy, and Love You Inside Out. 1980s, songwriting powerhouse and solo work. 1980. Barry collaborates with Barbara Streisand on the Guilty album, co-writing and producing Woman in Love, Guilty, and What Kind of Fool. 1982, he writes Heartbreaker for Dionne Warwick. 1983. Barry co-writes Islands in the Stream for Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton, a massive crossover hit. 1984, releases his first official solo album, Now.
Bye bye. Thanks for watching. Bye.